This has kind of become a So You Want to Be a Writer. Is it a So You Want to Be a Writer? I'm sitting in the So You Want to Be a Writer place, so I'm going to go with yes. Intention. Okay, hello, welcome, hi. There are going to be so many edits in this video because I haven't written anything down. Go me. I'm professional. So this is like a little talk about the kind of short film I did called The Door. Yeah. If you haven't seen the video, this is spoilers. Who cares? There's going to be so many finger guns in this video. I can feel the urge just rising. So The Door wasn't originally called The Door. It didn't have a title to begin with. When I started editing it together, I actually called it Spooky because I'm creative. The reason why I wanted to talk about it was that it was a little bit different from how I usually do anything. At this point, the video hasn't even been released. It's uploaded and rendered and scheduled, but it hasn't come out yet, so I don't know anything about it. I mean, it's not like we get loads of views or anything, but I don't know whether it works. So originally I kind of wanted to tell like a little bit of a scary, spooky story, film, short film thing, blah. For, you know, October, Halloween. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was kind of happy if it was either, oh, it's a little bit spooky, or oh my gosh, that's a little bit funny. I didn't quite know. I'm not very good at acting, so I didn't really know where the tone would be. So usually how I would do something would be I write it out. I might not write the stage directions, so it's more of a dialogue script. It's not a proper script. It's a script for myself. When I write something, I can see what's going to be in there. I can see, oh yeah, I need to have this shot, I need to have this shot, kind of. We need to do it like this. That's the angle, that's how I see it. Awesome. So when I write a script and I know that I'm probably going to be the one that's doing the stuff, it's a very basic version of what a real script should look like. I always write them out on paper because I can't be bothered to do anything else. So this is roughly what a script would look like for a video that I've shot, or that has been shot. And this is an example of what an actual proper script would look like that I did for like university. Sorry, I'm clicking my fingers. Which is a bit more of a professional script. Oh, that sounds awful, professional script. But what one would look like. It's not a shooting script, so you wouldn't have all the stuff that you would put in if you're like director, cinematographer, blah, blah, blah. It's just the script that you would put forward to tell the story. Which are different things, which is like, oh, okay, cool. So that's usually what I go for. You know, you do some drafts, blah, blah, blah. And usually I show Not Hannable, or I read it to Not Hannable, and we discuss it and we go from there. Even if I end up shooting mainly by myself, which has happened more recently because our schedule is being different, we usually have a bit of a back and forth about what's going on. However, The Door was really different, so I'll show you what I actually wrote for this. I kind of really had the idea of wanting to do something where you could see a bit of me in shots, and the door was open and you could see the hand coming up, like. But obviously I'm the only one that shot it. I was by myself. Originally, I was going to do a thing where I have the camera sort of facing sort of like here, and you film a bit, like you're in it, and then you perfect straight here, and then you film the other half and you can do something in it here. But we've tried that before and it's really difficult when you try and do it on your own, tiny little shakes, and it doesn't always set up nice. And I decided just not to do that straight away after talking briefly with Not Hannable, not about what it necessarily was, but about having a double shot. So I was just really naff because I was sitting there. I mean, if someone was with me, I'd have just got them to put the hoodie on and been like, this is my shoulder, but I just stuffed it with something like a cushion. It's awful. And it's like, put that tiny bit in frame, and then I'll go over here and open the door and do this. So yeah, that's my hand. Yeah, and I painted it, which was face paint. Great. Awesome fun. So I kind of had that idea of what I wanted to do sort of pop into my head, like, oh, it's a cool little spooky thing. And I basically thought about it for a while. It sounds really stupid. So like originally I had some ideas of maybe actually walking down a street and there being something going on. The guard, it's sort of, that's when there's the like it's coming at you sort of thing. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, maybe it is about the door. It's weird to think about how your thinking process actually develops. The second it's sort of got to a point, it's kind of like, oh, where did I actually start properly in the organic flow of this? But there we go. So what I did is actually just got a bit of paper and I wrote down a couple of little bits. I'll show you the pad of paper. And then I realised that there was a rough 3-act structure. What? And there's like 3 locations. sort of 4 kind of actually. I'm saying that, I'm lying. So there's like the living room area, there's the kitchen, and there's the garden. You know, you can kind of argue that the bit by the door is sort of a bit like a hallway area in itself. So the idea was to go from the living room to the kitchen, sort of to the living room, and then out to the garden through all 3. And I was like, well, okay, so you're making a drink. And so I was like, okay, and that's why you moved to this room. Okay, and then this happens. Okay, and then this happens. Okay, and then this happens. Okay. So I sort of wrote like that, sort of saw it at the same time, and I was like, yeah, it's okay. I see sort of what the angles want. We're going to set up really big exposition at the beginning and be like, not Hannibal's away. So I'm obviously on the phone to them being like, oh, not Hannibal's away. There's some exposition. And when it came to shooting, whereas usually it would be a bit more, I want to say methodical, that I'd walk through and I'd have, right, this scene, this scene, this scene, shot. I mean, I still did it in some ways so that I shot my bits before I shot the bit with the hand, because I wanted to shoot all the hand bits together, and then you don't want to keep putting makeup on it, and you can never get it exactly the same, that kind of stuff. But it was a lot more fluid in the sense that I was like, okay, well, I've got to do this shot. Okay, I've got to do this shot. So there was no me actually going, I've got to write down what shots I need to do. And in fact, I filmed, in some cases, a few more shots than I needed. And when I came to the editing process, I was like, well, this doesn't actually need it. It's a bit of overkill, or I don't like this shot as much as the other shot. I was actually really bad as well because I didn't double check every single shot I filmed. I didn't look it at after because, you know, you film it and you're in it, so you can't really see what you're doing at the same time. So I would double check a bit like, yeah, I was in frame, and yeah, that was all right, and okay, and I'd go through things a few times to make sure, like, yeah, I definitely think I got that, which is an awful way to do it. But it works, and then my brain's like, well, it worked this time, we can do it again in the future, and I'm like, no, that's awful, don't do that. Bad work ethic. I think again because it was just me, so it was like I wasn't frustrating, annoying, or inconveniencing anyone else but myself. So I felt like that's okay. There's a couple of bits which is really annoying where the tripod is in shot when I have the camera in a different location, like this one for instance. But not Hannibal didn't seem to notice too much on mine, so I was like, I'll keep that. There was a bit, I'll show the whole thing, where I do the turn at the end and I have to cut it here because you can see the tripod. That was actually worked really well because I didn't think I'd be very steady on my hand, so it's literally me holding it and moving like this. And I was really pleased with that. I was like, whoa, that's some good stuff. I'm so cool. There's some bits, for example, the garden's really bright, inside isn't quite so bright because it was a sunny day, so we had to change the exposure on the camera. So that's like the running bit is cut into 2 parts where I'm sort of more in the shadow and I'm less in the shadow in the sun, so that the exposure was correct and not like blinding. There was bits I did so intentionally. I had the camera being blurry and out of focus when there's running going on because it's like to show tension. Wow, I'm so great at saying things. Things like filming the phone, sounds all recorded separately. The sound for the phone, sort of weird noise, is actually me recording a phone that's phoning another phone, going to the other phone and rustling paper and writing things down. I always think, I don't know, whenever I've had like creepy stuff, something about stairs, things moving around the stairs has always been like kind of unsettling for me, without it being like shown to be unsettling. If ever I've had like a nightmare or something, like when I was little, it's usually around the stairs, the hallway, or you know what, the creepy stories for another time. Actually, there's a sleep paralysis one that's about this. Oh, let me just plug another video. Yeah, Halloween, you know what I'm saying? Nice. Halloween's over probably by the time the shows. I don't know what I'm talking about. This video is so long, I'm sorry. So the thumbnail was very different, very minimalistic, which I hope works. You don't have the usual Hannibal drawing. Just kind of wanted it to be, show this is something a little bit different. Also originally there was going to be music, like atmospheric music in the background. So what I basically did is after I'd filmed it, which like took not actually that long, maybe like a morning for once, I edited it together. I then showed Not Hannibal the rough cut, and he said that he thought music would actually distract, and I trust him. So no music, and it's kind of more of the sound effects that kind of make the atmosphere, hopefully. Some of the sound effects were completely unintentional, but we went with them, such as the roadworks that was going on outside. So across the road from where I am was having their front garden thing redone. So every now and again there was that noise when I was like, no, oh, not consistent, blah, blah, blah. So, but it actually seemed to work in some parts to the advantage, and I was very lucky the bits I was filming, there was a lot of bits of quiet. There's also the bit where I turn with the camera, you hear this weird buzz. I don't know where that came from. I don't think I clipped the mic or what, but it's just there, and I love it. I was like, wow, this is so unintentionally great. It looks intentional. We're keeping that. It's nice stuff. Not Hannibal is the true proper editor, I would say. So what I've done is I sort of half wrote something, I filmed it, I edited it together really roughly, like the sound wasn't consistent in the sense like between shots usually you'd make it nice and smooth so it's continuous so people know it's in the same environment. I hadn't done that and some things weren't as sharp as they should be. It was just like I've roughly cut this together so that I can show it to you and ask you what you think because Not Hannibal didn't know anything about it. Afterwards he then polished it. He's like the editor that's like, okay, I'm gonna make this good for you. So basically, very lovely, pretty much keeps most of my stuff in the structure that I want. If there's any changes, will ask me about them. But cuts things together so they're tighter. Let's show you some examples of what was my editing compared to what the finished product was like. So with my this is what it should be editing and Hannibal's actual polishing editing. So yeah, you can see much better. I think my editing has definitely improved since I've been doing these videos and actually since I've had a proper go at editing. I'd say the first time I actually did a proper bit of editing that I thought, oh wow, that's not completely rubbish, was the June 12th hype trailer. June 12th. Because it was just clips of stuff and I was like, oh, I love putting clips together and stuff and doing this. This is great fun. It kind of made me think, yeah, you know what, I can actually do some editing. Usually as well, a lot of my editing is just cutting out the noise that I make that I talked about in the Let's Draw video. Hey. But Not Hannibal is definitely superior in making things as close to perfect as they can be. That sounds awful, doesn't it? I'm sorry. Sounds really pretentious, but no. He makes them good. Stuff like the continuation of the sound, like I said before. Also originally, when I'm actually making the drink, I'd actually filmed a whole thing of me boiling the kettle so that you can hear the kettle noise and that was meant to go over it as well. But when I put that sound over, it was just overkill. It was too much. I didn't want to like ruin it by having the sound there, so I ended up not using it. But I do regret it because I'm like, you can't hear the kettle boil and it doesn't, you know, it's not realistic. Then I'm like, there's some spooky hand coming out of the thing. That's not really very realistic either. What am I complaining about? So like every single video I do for a very boring reason, this horror thing is a little bit about writing, you know, the pen. If you look up the quote by Oscar Wilde that you see at the end, it's about writer's block. So it's not just meant to be there's a creepy thing under the stairs like it's meant to be like the ever haunting continuation of the fact that you should be doing some work and I'm procrastinating about it. And it's writing. It's the only thing I think about. It's like awful. One trick pony is what I am. But so that's there as well. Just as like an added little bonus, but also it's meant to be like, oh, there's something in there. It was probably one of the smoothest things and quickest things to come together. And that was really interesting. There was a lot of dialogue. There was a lot of just dead air that hopefully added to it for once. I would like to do something like this again in the future because I enjoyed it very much and I hope it works. I'd like to think it works. But I worry about maybe doing the same thing too often. I wouldn't want to do that. And I would have to feel really on board with the idea of it. I feel like if I tried to force something, it wouldn't work. Maybe. Thank you for listening to this ramble. I'm sorry it has been a ramble. I didn't write anything down. Again, usually I should write things down, but I don't in this case because I just thought it might be nice to sound a bit more natural. Usually I have pointers. I'm like, you need to go from here to here to here to here. Again, I haven't written anything down because I'm awful. But yeah, that's kind of the thought process of this and how it's different from usual in writing and creating a piece. I hope you have enjoyed. Any questions, leave them. Subscribe if you want to. We usually have a video out once a month at random times because we are random people and don't always get stuff done properly. But I really appreciate it and I really appreciate you watching the video and people liking it and commenting because it's really, really nice. Thank you so much. Bye.